independence, the peoples of this country are still struggling to establish voting rights. The ruling Awami League government did not stop with the one-sided election of 2014. In that election, 154 candidates were elected uncontested. But the Awami League set the latest worst example of playing a joke on the people by disenfranchising the 2018 midnight election. We know that the only valid method of electing public representatives is through the exercise of democracy. But the government took away this right of the people and held the last few elections under their control. And that was the first called election. Let's look back. How was the 2018 election under the party government? Prioritizing the national interest, Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP), in association with Jatiyo Oikko Front, in a short period of preparation. But there is a lack of transparency in every case. The United States Department said in a statement that it cancelled its decision to observe the election because the government of Bangladesh was not cooperating. It is to be noted that ANFEL said that they would send 32 observers, but they said that they would not observe the election due to lack of clearance and visa on time. Sharmin Murshidi, Chief Executive Officer of Election Monitoring Agency BROTI, said about the 2018 election monitoring. They have issued strict rules and regulations regarding election monitoring, which has never happened before. Election observation is discouraged even if not officially done. She also said that the whole picture conveys a message that Election Commission observers are not being given much encouragement. She raised the question, does the Election Commission not want to clarify its irregularities? A statement of the Election Commission Secretary Helaluddin regarding election monitoring caused a lot of reaction in the public mind. He said, "We have to stand like idle and observe the elections." It is clear that by imposing a ban on election monitoring, the government is essentially trying to hide their misdeeds. In the 2018 election, the extreme fraud with the voters was done in the previous night by using the government administration. That very night, widespread irregularities in the media were visible. The ruling Awami League and their candidate supporters sealed the ballot papers in various centers. Ballot boxes were filled with ballot papers before the starting of casting vote. After being caught on BBC Bangla camera, the presiding officer of the center went to the room and found the boxes full of ballots. From the morning of the election day, the control of Awami League candidate supporters was seen inside several centers. Even in some centers, BBC journalists found the doors closed and supporters of Awami League candidates casting fake votes in the presence of the police and the presiding officer inside. But ordinary voters outside the center expressed their anger to the journalist for not being able to vote after waiting for a long time. The morning, journalists witnessed many irregularities and rigging in Dhaka and surrounding areas, which they highlighted through various reports. The army was the hope of the people of this country, but seeing the irregularities in 2018 elections, when the general voter complained to them, they quickly left the place without taking any action, which is very sad. Various national and international human rights experts, including the United Nations, The Guardian, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Odhikar, expressed fear and concern of violence after seeing the electoral environment. Fearing widespread violence in the election, Reuters reports opposition candidates in Bangladesh are at risk because thousands of cases are filed against BNP leaders and workers. Even the Secretary General of BNP was not exempt from the cases. During the 2018 parliamentary election, 335 false cases were filed against BNP leaders and workers across Bangladesh, in which 7,49,846 people are convicted, 28,249 arrested, 12,944 injured, and 19 were killed. Apart from this, 64 candidates are physically injured and assaulted by the government forces. After all these circumstances, at the end of the vote counting, an incredibly absurd and ghostly result are revealed. Domestic and foreign personalities, media, countries, and organizations reacted with dismay to the rigged election. Here is the Asian Network for Free Elections ANFREL response to the overall picture. According to ANFREL, a controlled environment has been created in Bangladesh by creating conditions of violence by law enforcement forces, using the law as a tool, using judicial agencies against the opposition, creating hostility against civil society, and intimidation of the media has been done, which is totally against the principles of democratic elections. In this situation, we are expressing doubts about the integrity and acceptability of the elections. This election cannot be considered fair and free under any logic. There have been massive irregularities in the 11th National Assembly elections. The government has abused its power and cheated the people of the country by using every organ of the state to usurp power. The matter is more clear from the confession of their various leaders. Rashid Khan Menon, leader of the government's allies Workers' Party, said, "I witnessed that the people could not vote in their parliamentary elections." Chief Election Commissioner Mr. Nurul Huda expressed his helplessness about this questionable election and said that 100% voting is not normal, and he also said that in 2018 election was questioned because of the ruling government party. EC has nothing to do here. Even though the government gained power through controversial and questionable first elections, the country and the people have suffered. The country's democracy has been severely hampered. By exercising monopoly power, the government has been able to suppress the people through corruption and misrule. After reviewing the past two elections in the context of the reality, it can be said surely that a fair and acceptable election is not possible under the ruling party government in Bangladesh, because everything remains as it was before, including the election commission made up of beneficiaries of the ruling party government, the politically loyal administration, the law and order forces, and the judiciary coordinated with the executive. As a result, it is not possible to make the election fair. Rather, it creates distrust about the election systems in the minds of the people. Moreover, the government has suppressed opposition and established a reign of terror through prosecutions, assaults, jails, oppression, disappearances, and murders. Even extrajudicial killings are carried out indiscriminately. The government has also taken away the right to free expression. It should be noted that there was a movement to establish people's voting rights from 2013 to 2015, but the government tried to take that movement in a different direction. The ruling Awami League government used its own people to throw petrol bombs at buses and kill people. But the responsibility of that murder was placed on BNP. The government has planned these events, many evidences of which are published in the media. The ruling government wants to make the opposition coalition leaderless. For that purpose, three-time Prime Minister and the largest political party, BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia, has been kept in custody for false and first cases. Acting chairperson of BNP, Mr. Tariq Rahman is leading the party from political asylum in UK. The government has blocked the way back to Bangladesh even so that he cannot lead the party by being associated with his party and activist online. The court has banned the publication of Mr. Tariq Rahman's speech in all media, including online. Even Mr. Tariq Rahman's wife, Dr. Zubaida Rahman, who is not actively involved in politics, were also not considered from these false cases. The only aim and purpose of all of this is to make BNP leaderless. The party's Secretary General, Mr. Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, including all levels of leaders and workers in the name of millions of cases. Thousands of leaders, activists, online activists, journalists are in prison. The Awami League government and its proxies have disappeared and killed more than 1,000 people. Meetings, obstructions, attacks and vandalism of party offices and obstruction of party programs, announcement of counter-programs on the same day with the nefarious purpose of creating conflict, suppression of opposition political parties using various state forces. In general, the occupation government is continuing the steamroller of repression. Bangladesh is going through a suffocating situation today due to disappearances, murders, torture, unbearable commodity prices, rampant corruption. In terms of realities, there is no chance for the opposition to trust the government. The only way out of this crisis is a fair, transparent and participatory election under a non-party neutral government, but the government is ignoring this legitimate demand of the people by citing the Constitution. The Constitution of Bangladesh has been amended 17 times so far. So what's wrong with the 18th Amendment? 16 crore people cannot be deprived of their democratic and fundamental rights. It is grossly unfair. It may be noted that the present government abolished the provision of caretaker government from the Constitution through the 15th Amendment to hold elections under its own power, which must be restored. In this country of 16 crore people, there is no alternative to democracy to fulfill the aspirations of the people. Bangladesh is waiting for a transparent, impartial election under a non-partisan neutral government to bring the country out of dictatorship and back to the way of multi-party democracy.